Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and Jon Chai.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, Coach Brad, and today is Tuesday, which means it's a very tactical day, and I am joined by Jon. What up, Jon?
How's it going, Brad? What happened to the Nuffler? Bottom right-hand corner. We lost him?
It's bottom
or left. Sorry.
Left hand. It's tough. Your left and your right. It's a tough thing. But for the podcast listener, we have a little slide at the bottom left where the Nuffler used to be, and the Nuffler's no more on Tactical Tuesday. We fed the Nuffler to the CPG Wolves, and it was a long, drawn-out process. There was tribunal, trial, execution, roasting.
Then a feast.
It was a feast. It was quite the dramatic ordeal. You can still buy the roasted corpse of the Nuffler, though, at chasingpokergreatness.com if you so choose. But Wolves is going to be the thing that is my major priority in growing, scaling, expanding, just because it's such a fun program.
What is it for people who might be listening to Tactical Tuesday for the first time, or
so it's a coaching for profit arrangement where you get to plug into a group, including myself, yourself, Shu, who's a CPG private coach, as well as a bunch of other players who are hell-bent on chasing poker greatness, realizing their full potential. It's a 2-year program, and it's just team atmosphere, team environment, learning from each other, keeping each other in line. I think these are things, we were talking about that just now, the importance of having a network and a community when you regress, when you're not playing at the, to your fullest capabilities. It's a rare thing to have somebody that kind of holds you accountable and keeps you in line, and smacks you in the head and is like, yo, what are we doing? We're playing badly right now. We need to do better.
Right. Yeah. Poker is definitely one of those activities or games where it's really hard to self-diagnose. Like, you need third parties, just kind of like to take a look and have an unbiased opinion on what you're doing, because it almost always feels like you're playing well.
Right. And I was telling you just a few minutes ago too that, like, it's really hard. I don't know how people do it on their own. Knowing what I know now, like, I don't know how people do it. It's like such a tough path. When you're not getting feedback, it's harder to grow. There's just so many things that make it way more difficult that it's actually kind of shocking to me that folks can actually do it on their own and play relatively high stakes.
Yeah. So I guess CPGWolves.com if you're interested.
Yeah,
Submit
we
an
are
application.
now accepting applications. We're also going to have some Wolves podcasts in the near future as well to keep everybody abreast.
Yeah.
But now we got some tactical things to do, right?
More pocket jacks.
Yeah, congratulations, guys. You learned how to play them last week, and now you're going to learn even harder this week with more jacks. What's the theme of today's show?
So we're going to be looking at multi-way spots where I squeezed preflop, meaning that someone opened, someone flatted, and then I 3-bet. Kind of unintentionally, actually, both of these hands go multi-way preflop. So both the opener and the caller call my squeeze. And we're going to be looking at multi-way squeeze spots.
Perfect. So multi-way squeeze spots. You want to break down the action for the podcast listener?
Yep. So playing 5-10, no limit, 6 max cash. It looks like all regs at the table. Cutoff opens to $25. The button flats to 25. I'm in the big blind with Jack of Clubs, Jack of Hearts. Going to be 3-betting or squeezing this spot every single time. With pocket jacks, I make it $130. Both the cutoff and the button call.
Happy day. We got a family.
Yep.
So you're out of position here relatively to the other two players. The flop is 7 of diamonds, 8 of hearts, 10 of diamonds. There's 395 in the pot, and everybody has relatively the same amount of money. You have 935. So SPR's a little bit more than 2 here. Mm-hmm. Tell me about your thought process in this first decision point in the hand.
So regardless of flop type, I am going to be checking range out of position versus 2 players when I get into this kind of multi-way squeeze situation. I just think it's like by far the easiest strategy to play and like the easiest way to manage your ranges. I think if you do start having a betting range and a checking range, it's really easy to just not have enough bluffs and be like just bet like only your over pairs and stuff like that. And not to say that that's like some terrible strategy to like have some like over pairs and flush draws or whatever that you bet and like that's all you do. But I do think it is easier to manage everything when you start with check, and so just going to be checking every single hand that I get to in the spot.
Yeah, and also when you start by like having a betting and a checking range, you can find yourself just always check folding, right? Because you're checking the bottom of range and you tend to be betting your more equity driven hands, so exactly. Makes you way more transparent.
Yeah.
With that said, I don't mind betting with this hand. I think you could bet the flop. I think you can check the flop. I think you can do whatever you want on this board with your exact hand, blocking Jack 9. You've got equity against anything, and like, however, you could just open rip the flop, I think, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Just because you have an overpair with the gut shot. But since you have your strategy here, you check. The cutoff checks, and the button bets a third.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we have another decision.
So again, my strategy in this spot, very, very, very simple. Check jam over pairs and diamond draws, and like maybe a handful of other draws that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. I don't know, maybe like some 9x of hearts or something like that, or queen jack of hearts or something. Probably don't even need to go that deep. I think if you just check jammed over pairs and flush draws, that would be a very reasonable strategy, and that's what I decide to do.
Well, there you go. And we get one fold, and the button calls, and I think it's totally fine. I think you should check jam. You want to protect your equity. You want to realize your equity. The range that calls you, you're going to have decent equity against, and villain will, also fold some hands, which is okay as well. So really, again, not much downside in anything that you do here with your specific hand. I think, though, that I would be less inclined to like check jam aces on this board. I think just because, I think it's a different situation with aces because you don't have the gut shot, which reduces your equity.
So how would you play aces?
I don't know. I would cry. I'd be sad.
I feel like we should mention that too, by the way. Like this flop is pretty terrible for the pre-flop 3-better and very, very good for, I think especially the button who cold calls twice, but also pretty good for the cutoff. So yeah, like just I'm not like ecstatic about like jamming over pairs here. Like I think, it's all 3 sets are very much in both players' range. Maybe not so much the cutoff once he checks, but certainly in the buttons range. Wouldn't be shocked to see 10s, 9s, 8s, or 7s.
I think you don't want to have a diamond with your overpairs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you're check jamming them, I think having a diamond is way worse than not having a diamond.
Yep.
I would probably just check call aces and then, I don't know, figure it out on subsequent streets.
Yeah.
It's probably kings as well and queens as well. I think it's just like quite a difficult situation, honestly.
Right. So you think like those 4 gut shutouts are a really big deal, basically.
I know they're a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't just think they're a big deal. I know that they're quite a big deal here, and it makes it more difficult for Lynn to have like Jack 9.
Yeah. Having 6 outs versus a set is way better than 2.
Yeah, it's exactly. Having 6 outs versus a set is way better than 2. You got like 10% equity with 2, and with 6, you've got like a quarter, which is quite a major difference. So anyway, and also like if they have 7-8 suited or 2-pair 10-8 or 10-7, something like that, then the jacks also has more equity there too.
That's a good point.
So you jam and villain calls, which is what it is, and they flopped a set of 10s, which is a good flop for them. So they did well.
Yeah.
They flopped a set and they got the money in against an overpair. So nothing to really say, I think, beyond beyond the flop. Just
I mean, this is like going to be like one of the most common outcomes of like check jamming here is like, they're going to have sets, and so they are going to have, there's like, not to say that there aren't like any worse hands that call off. Like I think like diamond draws are, definitely going to call here. I think
9s, 8-9, 9-10 maybe.
10-9,
Yeah, all those hands can.
Right.
So for the podcast listener, though, to recap, we squeezed multi-way out of position. Flop was 10-8-7 with the 10-7 of diamonds. There was 400 in the pot. Jon checked. Villain bet a third, 130, and he just ripped it for like 935. And Villain called and flopped a set of 10s, and Jon got destroyed. So it's
maybe like, just not to be like results oriented or whatever, just like having like a takeaway from this hand is like having like a clean, easy to execute strategy when you're out of position as the squeezer, and just like being like knowing exactly what you're doing with your entire range, not confusing yourself with like having a betting range and checking range on the flop, and just like having this very easy to execute strategy of like check jamming over pairs and diamonds.
Yeah, it's quite convenient of you to not be results oriented when you get crushed.
It's hard to self-diagnose, man.
Quite convenient, that. All right, so this is the first hand. The second hand includes one jack, but not both jacks. So we're mixing it up here on Tactical Tuesday. Stick around after the break. Another multi-way squeezed spot.
Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.
All right. Welcome back to this non-results oriented episode of Tactical Tuesday. We're playing it like professionals today, where the results don't matter. Conveniently for Jon. Now we have this second hand. We have an ace and a jack of spades. You want to just cut to the chase, dive right into the action?
Yeah, let's do it. So someone that looks like a reg. We only have two hands on the HUD stats, and not much to see from his stats other than he has a big stack, and so just gonna assume he's a reg for now. Opens to $30. Small blind, who is almost certainly a fish. He's playing very short and also finds us flat in the small blind, which is generally pretty fishy. Decides to flat the $30. I'm in the big blind with ace of spades, jack of spades. As like in the previous hand, I decide to squeeze. I make it 120, and the cutoff calls, and the small blind calls. So we go three ways.
I believe in you in this pot, Jon. I think you're going to win this one.
All right.
I think you got it.
That's how I feel every pot.
No, I have the energy read.
Top pair, top kicker.
You're gonna crush it here.
Right.
360 in the pot. Flop is jack of diamonds, 10 of hearts, 8 of diamonds. So we have another board with a straight available and a flush draw. You have top pair, top kicker. now you're second to act. So is your strategy going to be any different than the first hand?
No, but let's go back like one step real quick to preflop. Do you think there's any merit in not squeezing once the fish flats the small blind?
No.
And just okay, all right, just wondering, because like sometimes what happens is like you isolate the opener who looks like a reg, and then the fish folds, and you're like, is this really what I wanted? Like,
yes.
All right, easy peasy. All right, back to the flop.
Back to the flop. Yes. By the way, that's a thing about podcasts and interviewing and question asking. We tend to avoid the yes or no questions for that reason.
Oh.
Just little pro tip for you there.
I wanted to know the answer, the yes or no answer. Screw the audience. I gotta know.
I can't even remember. Have we told the podcast what the flop is? It's Jack 10-8, 2 diamonds. Now, the question was, is your strategy going to change here, being second to act instead of first to act on the flop?
No, I don't think my strategy is going to change at all. Just going to be checking pretty much every single hand that I get to the spot with. Certainly all my one pair hands. I think again, just having like a range check strategy just simplifies everything, and makes makes the strategy significantly easier to execute, and doesn't open up your checking range like you said, and you're just check folding everything that you check. So flop gets checked through, and the turn is the 10 of spades. Not too excited to see the 10. I think the cutoff can certainly have all the 10x in their range, and I would expect them to check all that. Obviously the small blind can still have everything, including straights and all the 10x. Does feel like it downgrades my top pair top kicker a little bit, but not the end of the world. Small blind checks. I check again. Anything you want to say about my second check?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Like the villain who's in position certainly has 10x in their range. You certainly have 10x in your range. I think like checking just makes a lot of sense there. As you said, the 10 pairing promotes villain's middle pairs, and now villain's middle pairs beat us as well. So yeah, checking just makes a lot of sense. And the cutoff in this hand, there's 360 in the pot. They bet 205 on the turn. The small blind folds, and I don't think there's anything you get to do other than call.
Yep. So that's what I go ahead and do. Call the 205. Deuce of diamonds on the river. Front door flush completes. Not particularly worried about the flush getting there. I would expect the cutoff to bet their flush draws on the flop quite frequently. I think like one of the flush draws that don't get bet on the flop is probably a hand like 10x of diamonds. That can very easily find a check back once they do have second pair. But I would have expected most of the naked flush draws to bet to put out a bet on the flop. So wasn't too worried about the deuce of diamonds. If I did check here and face a jam like I do, mostly expected to run into 10x when I do lose. But still, I think this hand is just way too strong to consider folding.
On the river?
Yeah. You don't think so? Okay,
I
maybe I should have considered it. But.
I mean, I think you probably should consider it. Like, I think you don't beat any value, obviously.
Correct.
Villain's never jamming king jack, so we don't dominate any value. Like, is villain turning pairs into bluffs? Do they have incentive to turn a pair into a bluff? Like, if they have 8-9, would they even bet the turn? I don't think so. Or nines, I wouldn't think so.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're turning a pair into a bluff. So like their bluff region needs to be something like king queen, ace queen. What else is there?
Yeah,
Just
I'm kind of just hoping they have like those hands and maybe some like really wild like 7-6 suiteds that just are going crazy. But I do like give, I don't know, especially regs, like a little bit more credit for being able to go crazy. Like once I checked twice, and it just, I don't know, maybe I just felt like, oh, like I checked top pair top kicker twice. Like how can I how can I fold? Like they could just go be going crazy with the 7-6 of clubs or something.
As we said on the turn, where middle pair pairs, and that promotes the 10x.
Yep.
The river that completes the flush also promotes villain's flush draws.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're looking at straight draws, and also the unnatural hands of like, who knows? 7-5 of hearts, I guess, is one that comes to mind.
Pocket sixes or something.
Yeah.
It's so funny. 7-5 suited was for some reason one of the ones that came to mind to me too. I have no idea why. I guess that has a gut shot actually. So
yeah, the old 7-5 of hearts. So I'm actually not sure what to do on the river, and I think you should consider folding. Mm-hmm. But I also think that like you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place after the double check, where this is really why checking strong hands multi-way is good, because we don't want to end up in spots like this where we're like, well, great, like they can just rip everything. Like, what do we call with? So
is this hand strong enough?
I mean, if they have like ace queen with a diamond, I think that's like the primary hand that can just do this. But yeah, again, I'm not exactly sure. Yeah. You do call though.
Yeah. I don't remember how long I considered folding, but I don't think it was very long. Probably not long enough given our analysis of this hand now.
Yeah, you called quite sure. Another thing that has to happen too is like they need to check the flop with king queen and ace queen as well.
Right. Which is like almost as unlikely as them checking diamonds. Like
right. So like the hands that we're like looking to beat need to also check back the flop, and like it feels like ace queen is a very natural stab here facing the fish check and then your check. So yeah, I'm not as convinced on this river call as you, honestly.
Okay. Wow. What happened to the energy read? I thought you said I was going to crush it this time.
Yeah. I was just fooling the audience, I was just tricking them. I was giving them some hope that maybe you won a hand on Tactical Tuesday this week.
Not this week. Sorry.
I knew the case. They have the 6-3 of diamonds. They rivered a flush, and yeah, Jon is minus 2,000 for this week's episode of Tactical Tuesday. Quite the loss rate there.
Yeah, man. Maybe that would actually be a fun thing to do. Go back and like tally my win-loss on Tactical Tuesday episodes.
Yeah, somebody in the audience who's like very ambitious, get to it. I'm certainly not that interested. I'm not as interested as you. As it sounds like you are when you said that.
I forgot when we started doing Tactical Tuesday. Was I playing 200 NL at the time or no?
No, I think you've always been playing 1K NL.
1K. Okay, yeah.
TT, yeah.
All right.
I can't remember what episode this is, like 70-ish.
Wow.
So we've been, yeah. And I don't think we've missed many. Have we missed one Tuesday? At least?
We've definitely missed like one, like Christmas, New Year's time. We're like, we're both off or something.
What are we like pretending that we have family
Lives,
and loved ones?
Yeah.
We were just on a Zoom call talking to each other.
Yeah. Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, good show this week. As we mentioned earlier in the first segment, CPGWolves.com, we're accepting applications to the program. So get on that if you are interested. And I got nothing left to say.
See you next week.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter, join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter at CPG Podcast.